Hello and welcome to my review for Severance Season 1. Now, before I actually jump into my review, I just want to ask a quick question to anybody who's watching this video, any viewer, whether you are subscribed to me and you watch all of my reviews, or if this is your first review that you've ever seen from me. I just want to ask the question of what format should I review TV shows? And what I mean by this is, should I review them per season? Or should I review them after I finish the entire thing? Because there's both things are kind of fun in a sense, and I'll explain. If I do it season by season, right, you get kind of an understanding of where my headspace is at, where how I felt about this one specific season, instead of me kind of breezing over each season and just talking about the entire show. If I do it seasonally, it'll just be that one season. You can kind of see where my thoughts are, where my brain is at, and I can possibly make predictions for the next upcoming season. And I think that that would be very fun to try to guess where the TV show is going to go and try to figure out how it's going to work. But the only problem with that is, say for example, I'm watching a TV show, and this isn't anything specific, but say for example, I'm watching a TV show and I'm like constantly harping on one thing where I'm like, oh, I didn't like how they didn't do this, or they didn't explain this, or I'm still waiting for an explanation for this, that. And if you are a person who has finished the entire show, maybe in the next season, everything I'm complaining about, they absolutely solve and fix. So it's not fun, and it's probably more annoying to watch somebody review something and them complain about something or talk about something that gets answered in the next season, but because they're reviewing the one season at a time, you can't say anything to spoil it. But reviewing something, a TV show as a whole, is very fun for me because I get to talk about the characters and stuff that resonated with me, and I don't really have to talk specifically about like how the plot unfolds episode by episode in a single season, where if I'm just like, hey, I watched all 5 seasons of blank, here's how I feel about the entire thing. That's easier for me to kind of do because my brain will just jump all over the place. But if I do it seasonally, I can kind of talk about what I expect to happen, but I don't know. But anyway, we're doing Severance Season 1 for... I haven't even watched Season 2 yet. I'm going to be starting it here soon. But I really like this show, so I wanted to get this review done, and because I want to start the second season. So I want to get all of my thoughts out about this show. But Severance is a show on Apple TV that is immaculate. It's so good. Everything I've kind of been reviewing recently, if you've noticed, I have been saying is really good, but I think I've just been watching some really good stuff. So Severance, essentially, I'm not going to do an entire spoiler free, which, I usually like to do. This kind of show is very hard to give a spoiler free. Like, it's just kind of difficult in my opinion, but if you have not seen it, I do suggest that you watch it. It is 9 episodes. They're about 40-something minutes, about usually less than an hour each. But the thing of this show is it's so well done in its, I want to call it pacing, and the way that they slowly reveal new information to the viewer, so it gets your cogs turning. You're like, what is happening? But anyway, for anybody who hasn't seen it, Severance is a show where in this world, in this universe or whatever, in the TV show, there is a procedure called the Severance procedure, where basically your outside life is yours, and you sign up for this procedure, or life is normal. You sign up for this procedure, and what they do is they put a little chip in your brain, which, again, I don't know if that's necessarily a spoiler. That's just how the procedure works. And basically, you go to work at this company, and when you're in the elevator going down to your job, your brain flicks. And you basically are not yourself anymore. You are you look like you, but now you only know. It's so hard to explain. If you've seen it, you understand. It's you are yourself, you still look like you, and you have the same name. You're basically two different people, two people living in the same body. You have your outside body and your work body. And the outside, like, say you're going down in the elevator, boom, your brain clicks. Your consciousness basically goes to sleep while your body's at work. And then when you get back in the elevator and you're on your way up, you click. So basically, the person who signed up for the procedure never has to work ever again, technically. Their brain doesn't go to work. That you get to be outside of work, you get to sleep, you get to eat, you get to do whatever you want, anything you normally do. But when you go to clock in and you're going down that elevator, your brain is going to click, and then now you're in your work form in your brain, and that work form only knows work. Because as soon as that work body steps in the elevator, their brain clicks, and then when it comes back, they're back at work. That's the setup of the show, and it's a procedure. There's is it morally, is it ethical, is it and throughout the show, big corporation, we are figuring out essentially what's happening down there, because you don't have the memory of work, so you don't know what your job is. So like you're like, oh, I'm going to work, and somebody could be like, well, what do you do? I don't know. You don't know what you do, because that part of your brain, the memories of work, aren't yours anymore. And it's super well done, man. I really like this show. All of the characters are really well done. And there's a very limited amount of characters, which makes it very easy to follow, because the thing with Lumen, which is the main company that all the characters work at, the people that are severed, that they work at Lumen, the thing is, it's the way it's designed is to basically brainwash you. Your work body, your innie is what they're called. Your outie and your innie. It's like two consciousness in the same body. So basically, think of it as like damn, I shouldn't have said that, because now I don't have an example. I don't have an example loaded up. Think of it as if somebody took over your mind controlled you, basically, and for 8 hours a day they have control. But it's not like, there's other shows in media where that happens, and they're like, I was there, I could see everything, I just didn't have control of myself. That's not how this works. If somebody mind controlled you, but while they were in control, you have no recollection of anything that happened. And it's not exactly mind control, but that's the only way that I can really explain it. But yeah, so I'm going to jump into character stuff and spoiler stuff. So we start out with a character named Mark. He's the main character of the show. We basically follow him through everything, and he is one of the few characters where you get to see his you get to see his innie and his outie. That's why he's the main character. There's a couple other characters, Dylan, Irving, and Helly, where you only see them at work and you don't know what they do outside of work, which is something that a lot of the innies question. They're like, I wonder what my at-home person is like. I wonder what my at-home life is like. And they all kind of question this, because it's kind of weird to wrap your head around when you're watching the show that these people okay. This is not a complaint, but it's more of I'm wondering how the science of it would work, right? So the characters, the innies, the people that are at work that only know work, right? They know that they had a life up until this point. My question is, now I'm going to get back to the character stuff, but this just popped in my brain and I forgot that I had thought about this. They make references, they say cuss words, so basically what I'm trying to get at is, if the innie is basically a newborn child, essentially, in a grown adult's body, you're basically forcing yourself to become a person that is new to life, because they don't know outside, they don't know what anything is like. So my whole thing is if I've watched movies, right, my whole life, and then I do the Severance program, would my innie, because the innie doesn't have any memories of outside of this building that they're in, they have no memories, but could I reference something from a movie? Because if I could reference something from a movie, that means I have a memory of seeing it, which means I would have a memory of outside life. Because I don't know if a character exactly did make a reference or something. I can't exactly remember what popped that thought in my brain, which that they say that the innie has no memory of outside, and the outie has no memory of the inside. Like, there's none. So you don't, the outie, like the person who's not at work, has no idea what they do for work. They have no idea what the inside of work looks like. They have no idea who they work with. They have none. And the innie has no idea who their family is. They have no idea, nothing, right? But everything in your life is tied to memory, I feel like, right? So your mannerisms, the way you speak, how you speak about people, how you think about people, that's all shaped from your life memories of every single little thing you've gone through in life. Is all it all adds up to make who you are. So my only question is, if you do the severance thing, I feel like you would be brain dead, because if you have no memory of outside, you have no idea who you are, which is kind of something they explore in the show. You know what I mean? They always wonder what I'm like out there. And even Lumen, they have like therapy sessions for the outies the innies, where they're like, your outie is a good person. They make people smile. They know how to tie their shoes. Like, they tell them things about their outie, but it's the most generic, plain thing, so that they don't feel like they understand who they really are, but they feel good about who they are. But that was my only thing. I was like, your memory is so important, where if I did a severance thing and I walk into that job and I forget everything of the outside world, everything, I have no memory of everything, I am like, how am I even cognitive to function? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, your body knows how to breathe and everything, but like, you have no memory of speaking to people. How is your vocabulary up to date with your outie? Does that make sense? Am I nitpicking? I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying I don't understand how it would even really work. But regardless, it's super good. Anyway, so we're going to jump back to Mark. I know I said that and I kind of went off that tangent, but Mark S. is a character who, he did the severance for a good reason, and every character kind of has a different reason for why they did it, right? We don't get all of the characters' reasonings, but we get Mark and Helly, who are kind of the two like main characters-ish. They're not the main characters, because everybody kind of plays a part, which is why it's a good TV show. Everybody does their own thing, but Mark's reason, again, this is spoilers. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. I'm going to just talk about it. In the first couple episodes, you don't understand why Mark did what he did. You don't understand why people would sign up for the severance thing. Or maybe you can understand it, if you hate your job, you're like, man, I would love to just be able to go turn my brain off, literally, and then just wake back up when I'm ready to go home. I understand that. I get that. But Mark's reasoning is his wife passed away in a car crash, which... Actually, no, she didn't. Okay. Mark's wife passes away in a car crash, and he is destroyed. So what he thinks is doing severance is for 8 hours a day, he doesn't have to remember his wife that passed away. It's super good for a main character, because he, in the beginning, now this is not throughout the entire show, but in the beginning, he's a mess as his outie. He's getting drunk, he's by himself, he just sits in his house by himself, and it's very sad, and it's very real. Somebody lost somebody who they absolutely love and adore, and now he is just a train wreck. And so he's like, I'll do the severance, so for the 8 hours that I'm at work, that Mark, the innie Mark, doesn't have to have all this grief and have all this emotion and be super upset about the loss of his wife, because he doesn't remember. And so it's easy to understand that, right? So you understand what Mark is going through, and so he's an empathetic main character. You feel bad for him, but you understand his reasoning. Then I'm going to jump to Helly real quick, and I'm going to just kind of explain everybody's reasonings for why they're doing it. So at the last episode of the first season is so good, which they were stressing me out so bad. I'll get to that. But Helly is basically the daughter of the guy who owns Lumen, and in like a big press move is because a lot of people in the world think that Severance is actually bad, that it's brainwashing, you're turning people into like slaves, kind of, that it's not a good thing. So Helly, being the daughter of the CEO or the runner of Lumen or whatever, is like, I'll show you it's a good thing. I wouldn't want anybody else to do something I wouldn't do myself. And so she does it. And her innie hates it. She tries to self-harm. She tries to take her own life away from being there. And it's super good reveal when they don't show you any of Helly outside of like her Audi at all. They only show her basically saying, you are not a person, you are an object or whatever. You are not a person. You are there to do the job, do the job. And then we finally get her Audi, and she's like on this big press tour, like some big higher up, and it's crazy. It's super well done. I love it. Okay, then I'm gonna jump to Dylan real quick. Dylan is a great character. He's comic relief. He's very good. And we don't really get to see what he does outside of work because he sacrifices staying behind so that the others can actually become their innie on the outside world and see how their life is and everything. But he has a kid, he has a couple of kids, and it's that's kind of the turning point for them, is he gets woken up on the outside and sees his kid. So then it breaks him, kind of. And so now once that happens in, like, I think it's like episode 7 or something like that, once that happens, they're all ready to get out of this place, and it's so well done. I'm gonna jump to Irving really quick. Irving was a great character. He ends up building a relationship with a different department, a person in a different department, and like I said, the building that they're in is designed to like make you confused and forget where you are, and it's extremely bland and boring. It's all white walls, and it's definitely meant to like brainwash these like innies to just like becoming kind of like robots, like just being used to doing the work and whatever. And but he ends up falling in love with Christopher Walken, who I haven't really seen in anything. I know he's a good actor, but like a lot of his stuff is older, and I don't think I've seen him in anything. But the acting here is pretty good, and they fall in love, and they're not supposed to, because obviously, you know, the company has a shitload of rules, and they're over top of them, and they're not allowed to interact and mingle with people because it brings, you know, it brings up questions of what are we doing here and everything. But that is kind of Irving's plot, is he's falling in love, but he's slowly trying to figure out what's happening, and it's super well done. I want to jump real quick to Mrs. Selvig, or Cobell, I think her name is. She's a creepy ass character, dude. She's a creepy old lady, and the thing that is so good about this show is each episode, it poses a new question and gives you a little piece of the puzzle, so you're trying to figure it out, and it slowly progresses so good, and I just love how well it's paced, where each piece gets unfolded a little bit until you get to the final thing, and it's so well done. But basically what I want to talk about real quick is Milchick is a great character. Love him too. He is a part of the Lumen system. He is not severed, along with Mrs. Cobell, who they're not severed, which means that they are the same. They have all of their memories of the outside and the inside, and their job is to basically keep the innies in and keep the outies out, and explain any problems that happen in between or anything like that. And there's a scene where, because they hit their quota or something, their quarterly quota, that Milchick is like, oh, you guys get a dance experience, and it's super generic. And also, did the inside of Lumen feel super like 80s to anybody else? Like, they have flip phones, so I'm thinking the show is taking place around early 2000s era, but like the inside of the building feels super old, like they're trying to keep them in the past. Like, I don't know how to, like, you know, it's just the design of the buildings felt way older than the time period that they actually were in. But Milchick is like doing this dance, and he's like doing these like weird like movements, and then the lights are like flashing, and it's like, okay, little disco party, and everybody's dancing, and it's really awkward and kind of weird. And then the lights just go fully red, and like Milchick is like in Dylan's face, and he's like doing this like weird shit, and it's like, it's goofy to watch. Like, I'm like laughing, but it's like an awkward laugh where it's like like, what is happening? But then Dylan, that's the episode where Dylan kind of breaks, because he figures out about his son and everything, and he goes and he attacks him. And but basically we find out right before, okay, we find out in one of the episodes that you can get flipped on and off manually. So it's not just them entering the building. The company can do it while they're at home, like can get flipped to their any consciousness, right? So they figure that out, and they basically set up a whole plan. A whole episode goes by where they got to get the key card from the guy and get into the security office and whatever. And then Dylan does he stays behind. But basically, that's how we get to see Helly's outie, like life. Helly, the innie, sees her outie life and sees that she works for this company, which she outs the entire thing, which I absolutely loved. Irving, we find out that he is a painter, and he has been painting this black hallway that ends in just an elevator with a red light, and I'll get to that in 1 second. And Irving, he tries to go find Christopher Walken's character out in the outie world, because Christopher Walken's outie retires, which essentially in Severance means if your outie retires and you're an innie, that means you're basically dying, because your outie's not going to come to work anymore, which means that you're not going to be at work anymore. So you're basically dying. You're basically dead. It's basically your second consciousness is dying. And Irving is upset by this because obviously he fell in love. So he tries, and he goes to meet up with Christopher Walken, who I think his name is Bert, I think, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sorry. But he tries to meet up with Christopher Walken's character outside, the outie version of him. And he knocks on the door, and he gets swapped back to his outie. That's how the season ends for Irving. But Mark, he's talking to his sister. His innie is talking to his sister and basically telling him all this stuff that's going on, because he's like, look, I don't know, like, I didn't know that you're my sister. I'm just finding this out now, yada, yada. But he basically sees a picture of... Okay, Mark sees a picture of him and his wife, his Audi's version, or his Audi and his wife, and it's actually Miss Casey, who is the therapist that they've been going to all season. And so Mark, right before he gets flipped back to his Audi consciousness, he tells everybody that she's alive. Oh my God. It was so good. Dude, sorry, I hit my mic. The thing about the last episode though, they had me so stressed. They made a plan. They were like, okay, when you get swapped to your when you get swapped and your any consciousness on the outside, you have to tell somebody immediately, okay? You have to write a note. You have to do something to give people an inkling of, hey, look, something's not right at this company. And they made this plan. They waited like 2 hours to say anything. Mark was around like hundreds of people and didn't say anything to anyone. And it was so frustrating until the very end when he finally talks to his sister. Like, they were playing around. They were in their innie form for like a solid hour, and they didn't say anything to anybody. Of course, Helly got to say, we're prisoners. We hate it there. We're miserable, whatever. And of course, Mark got to say what he had to say. They waited so long. They made the plan to do it immediately. The second you get out, say something to anybody, to somebody that you need help or whatever. And they did it. I was like, dude, how long are you going to take? Oh my God. But anyway, I want to talk about predictions for next season. So, Lumen is going to get outed. There's going to be a lot of damage control that the company has to do for the innies and everything. I think Mark and Helly, or okay, Mark, I think all of them are going to go back to work, right? Because there wouldn't be a second season if they didn't go back to work. Obviously, that's kind of like being corny about it, but like there would be no second season if Mark doesn't continue to be severed and innie and outie. But Irving now knows about the paintings of the hallway. Mark knows about his wife is Miss Casey, and they said that she was basically getting fired or whatever. Helly knows that she is like the daughter of this company, and Dylan knows that he has kids. Mark's plot is going to be getting down that, or their plot as a whole is going to be getting down that dark elevator that Miss Casey went down, but also because Irving subconsciously knows about it, I think that maybe Irving... Okay, sorry. They're making clones. There's a scene in there where there's baby goats, and I know that in real life, we can clone goats. Now, whether or not they're actually, you can consider them living animals or healthy or whatever, but we can clone sheep and goats and stuff, or sheep, maybe not goats. I don't know exactly if they're the same thing. I'm dumb. But, so, they're making clones. So I think what the Lumens idea is, you get the chip, right? And they have the consciousness of the innie, right? Then you take that chip, you clone the body, and then you can send the outie on their way. And then you put that chip in the clone version, and then now you just have a cloned robot worker, right? They're trying to redo sheep. They're testing on sheep. Optics and design, which is where Christopher Walken's department was. I think that they're making clones of people. So maybe because Irving has already seen the elevator, or he has dreams of it, right? So if he's seen the elevator, that means he's probably gone down there, because no other severed person has seen the elevator except people who have had to go down there. And Miss Casey went down there. So I think what I think happened is they covered up Mark's wife dying, and they really just cloned her. Or she maybe did die, or no, they cloned her and then she died, so they covered it up, but she's a clone. Maybe. I don't know. The second season plot is 100% going to be them going down the elevator or trying to find a way to go down there, because Irving already knows, so maybe he's already a clone. Maybe he subconsciously has seen it, and that's why he's able to paint it as his outie. Mark doesn't know where Miss Casey went. He knows that he has a wife, and he knows that she's down there somewhere. And yeah, Helly, don't really know what she's going to do, but she's been trying to get out since day one, so she's going to help them. And Dylan is going to help them. Actually, Dylan might get hurt or killed or something, because he got caught by Milchick helping them, like pressing the buttons and flipping their switch. So maybe Dylan isn't around. Or maybe he's fired and he has to, I don't know. But those are my predictions, and that's my review for Severance. I talked way too much about this show, so I'm sorry. Let me know if you've watched Severance, if my predictions are on. Obviously, don't spoil it for me, please. That's not fun. Don't do that. But, yeah, let me know what you think. If you like the show, if you dislike it, let me know. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.